It's the type of action that says much more than words. A year ago, the federal government banned open net pen salmon farming off the coast of British Columbia. Coastal communities had watched in horror as salmon farms proliferated, bringing pollution, disease, and a mass die-off of wild salmon. Once epic runs of Pacific salmon were in danger of being wiped out altogether. The feds put a stop to it in June of 2024. No new licenses will be issued, and companies operating in BC were told to get their farms out of the water within 5 years. The situation couldn't be more different on the Atlantic coast. Open net pen salmon farming is booming. Some Atlantic provinces court and even subsidize companies willing to establish salmon farms off their coasts. Now there is increasing pressure to, at very least, slow it down, to consider what salmon farms are doing to wild salmon and the ecosystem around them. On this podcast, we're going to take you to a small community in Newfoundland that is fighting the current, hoping to keep salmon farming out. I'm Kristen Knoll, and this is Saving Salmon. Burgeo is a fishing town off the rugged southwest coast of Newfoundland. It would be considered remote by most standards. There's only one road in, and it is a bone-rattling, potholed trip known as the Caribou Trail. We sent Bob Keating down that bumpy trail to meet people in Burgeo and hear what they think about salmon farming. Bob, quite the trip, huh?
It was a trip. Everyone I met, too, who hadn't been down it, commented on the Caribou Trail, which is called Route 480. Potholes the size of garbage cans and almost as deep, but the trip was well worth it.
Yeah, I heard it's really beautiful down that way.
It is, and one of the benefits of a bumpy road is it slows you down to take in the beauty of the interior plateau of Newfoundland, which is this carpet of green bog and forest and mountains peppered with lakes. It's harsh, but it's really beautiful country. And then at the end of the Caribou Trail, at the end of 480, you hit Burgeo, which is coastal and beautiful in a completely different way.
You painted a really beautiful picture there. Can you give me more of a sense of Burgeo?
Yep, it's a fishing town on the southwest coast. They call it the southwest coast, locals do, made up of several clusters of colorful homes, both on the mainland and little islands peppered about. The main part of Burgeo is just over 2 kilometers long on an island called Grandy Island, which is connected by a short causeway. It's also one of the oldest fishing ports in Newfoundland, with fleets fishing there since around the 1700s. In fact, Captain James Cook named one of the islands near Burgeo Eclipse Island because he was there during an eclipse. So it goes back that far, back to James Cook.
So when did they get a road in?
1979, which made Burgeo boom a little, only then to collapse after the 90s cod moratorium. Typical stuff in Newfoundland. Now there's about 1,700 people who live there, making it, believe it or not, one of the biggest towns on the southwest coast. But there's not a lot of work there, and it is aging. The average age is around 60, which made me feel right at home.
That sounds pretty typical for southwest Newfoundland.
Yes, remote, beautiful, aging quickly. Anyone interested in this history should pick up Farley Mowat's A Whale for the Killing, which gives a really, really good history of the southwest coast and Burgeo itself. It's fascinating and a great read, too. He actually lived there, Farley Mowat did, with his wife for 5 or 6 years, back before there was a road, back in the 60s when Burgeo was a remote outport.
Didn't that book get them run out of town?
Yes, it did. And the book is still controversial in Burgeo, but I found it at my local library here and burned through it. I forgot how good a writer he is. Contentious, though, but a really good writer.
And that's not the controversy that you were there for, Bob.
No, there's that other controversy bubbling up in Burgeo and all over Newfoundland. It hasn't reached Burgeo yet, but it is creeping ever further down the coast, and many locals, all the locals I spoke with, want it to stop.
And why is that?
They don't like what it potentially brings, which is mass die-offs of farm salmon, disease, lice, Plastic dumping, effects on wild salmon is a big problem, effects on the greater ecosystem in the ocean. There is a reason, Kristen, they are pushing open pen salmon farming off the coast of BC, and those reasons became quite clear to me in Burgeo.
Okay, Bob, take us there. Take us to Burgeo, Newfoundland.
Okay, we'll start with a hot breakfast, Kristen. On my first morning, I ate at the Burgeo Haven B&B. It's the only place to get a hot breakfast in Burgeo, though it's like no breakfast I've ever had.
Today's menu is freshly caught mackerel and cod and mustard pickles and home fries.
Cod for breakfast?
Cod for breakfast. That's a tradition where I grew up. And this time of the year we have mackerel or herring, whatever's available. So we eat according to the season.
Dorham Keating is the owner of the inn. Dorham grew up across the bay from Burgeo on a small island with 10 brothers and sisters. Not that unusual for rural Newfoundland in the 50s. Also pretty typical. Dorham left the home he loved to find work away in Toronto. Life on the Rock lured Dorham and his new wife back to Burgeo about 2 decades ago, and they got right to work on the inn, which was still in his family.
We just turned the business not into just a bed and breakfast, but into an ecotourism and a destination place. So it's almost like a little miniature resort because we have the whole coast, and we have the bays and the fjords and the islands, and the Sandbanks Provincial Park at our doorsteps. So it's been a wonderful experience. So this bed and breakfast is one of the longest established businesses here in the town of Burgeo, and we've been doing ecotourism for a long time.
A labor of love for you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it was a passion. For a long time I had it as my screensaver. I came back in 1996 for an homecoming, and fell in love not only with Newfoundland again, but with this facility because my sister was running it at the time.
It's easy to see what drew Dorham back to this inn and to Burgeo itself. The inn is bright and homey, and Burgeo looks like a postcard. Those colorful houses perched above bays and inlets, all surrounded by green islands and fjords. I met a couple from the Netherlands at breakfast who were thrilled to have just stumbled upon the place.
I think you found it, so how did you find it?
Yes, well, that's a good question. I saw pictures on Google of Burgeo, and they looked really amazing with the fjords and the Sandbank Park. We thought, okay, let's have that on our list too.
Marina and Dominique have a thing about Canada. They visited here 7 times and probably seen more of the country than many Canadians. They tell me, though, they've never quite experienced anything like Burgeo.
It's totally different than anything we've seen in Canada so far. And it's much more quieter, different, amazing, slightly frightening sometimes on the road.
Yeah.
But it's very calming, very... I think still something we didn't really see in Canada, this kind of view. With rolling hills and fjords, it's again different. So
Yeah, and no other tourists yet. Like we were only like with the 2 other people that we saw, and you can still speak to the locals, make a connection, and see how they live.
Okay, we're going down to Bay de Lou. Okay.
After breakfast, Dorham agrees to take me out on the water to see how locals live.
So we're going to head east there along the shore, down by Hodges Pond, go up to what we call Ha Ha, into Bay de Lou because it's a perfect day and flat calm on the water.
The ocean gives rural Newfoundland life and always has. The majority of towns and cities are on the coast, and people have a deep connection to the water, Dorham included. He deftly guides his 20-foot cruiser between small islands. A bald eagle soars off a 100-meter cliff toward us. Dorham says birders love this place.
The spring of the year, you come there, you get the puffins just coming off the cliffs. And again, I get people from all over, from Barcelona, from
Darwin, Australia, coming here wanting to see the eagles and see the bays. Everything in its natural form. And I consider it a privilege and an honor to be able to do that for the people from away. It's almost like share a moment with them.
We glide into a small bay with a freshwater stream spilling into it. Dorm cuts the motor and tells me about a perk of being a Newfoundlander of a certain age. This province is so vast with so few people in it, they were allowed back in the day to pick out a piece of crown land and build a cabin on it. They've been granted rights to these cabins, which are peppered all over Newfoundland. It's just part of the fabric of the place. Dorm points one out in Beetaloo.
So those folks here are from Burgeo, from Smalls Island, which is part of Burgeo. And they've been coming here now since I've been here for 20 years. They've been coming back and forth. They spend most of the year here now. They're kind of in a semi-retirement mode as well. And they come and go and get a few groceries, and they have a little bit of a greenhouse up in behind. They grow their own produce and that, catch their own fish. They pretty well live off the land. You might say they're off the grid, literally off the grid. So they got a good life.
How about you? You got one?
I built a brand new cabin on an island down where my grandmother was born and my ancestors came from. So it's not only a place to get away, but it's a connection with your heritage, a connection with the land, and a connection with the water. And my brother has a cabin up here, and he moved in from Nanaimo, BC. So, cabins are very important to us.
Dorm spins the boat around and we head south back the way we came. He wants to show me another favored spot, a place he considers one of the jewels of the entire southwest coast.
We're up in the lower Barshwa. It's on the west side of the Sandbanks Provincial Park. This is the area that they're hoping to be a part of the NMCA or turn this into a national park, and rather than just a provincial park.
I want to investigate that, so I decide to take a walk in Sandbanks Park. And Dorm is right, it's spectacular. A series of sandy crescent-shaped beaches connected by boardwalks that meander over green headwalls and through bogs. The beaches look more like something out of the Caribbean than North Atlantic. I meet up with Derek Mercer, who runs the park.
There's sandy beaches in Newfoundland, but I think what makes Sandbanks unique is the shape of the beaches, the crescent beaches that end in sandspit formations, and just off from those sandspit you have all those islands. So the islands in the area is all like everything, the way everything is geographically laid out. When you enter the park, you come in and you see all these islands and crescent-shaped beaches, and it's just visually stunning, right?
This park was established 40 years ago. The land and beaches here are protected, and many locals want more put aside. There's a proposal in the works to protect a long swath of the coastline here. The plan would see 9,000 square kilometers of south coast turned into a national marine conservation area. Not quite a national park like Gros Morne, but near to it. They've been working on this plan for years with Parks Canada and are in stage 3 of a 5-stage process. Derek tells me he can't see a downside.
I'm not an expert on NMCA, but I've done some research and reading enough to know that there's really nothing that is unbeneficial, right? I think it would be definitely a good asset here.
What makes you think that, Derek?
An NMCA with federal input, money-wise, the investors would look at it and say, yeah, what a great place to invest in tourism establishments, bitter restaurants. I can't really see anything wrong with it.
Do you think it would improve Sandbanks, improve the park?
The park is working well. With an NMCA, you could see the federal dollars and provincial dollars combined to help upgrade amenities. There's no design in an NMCA to really take any traditional usage, fishing, or that's not what an NMCA is all about. And to me, if Burgeo doesn't grab onto this pocket of federal dollars and federal federal entity, then what are we going to be in 10 years, 15, 20 years time, right? Cleaning up dead salmon? That don't make sense, right?
There's a reason Derek brings up dead salmon. It's what people are talking about around Burgeo. The open pen salmon farms down the coast have been experiencing mass die-offs all summer, and Burgeo is on the receiving end of the dead fish.
That stench is getting pretty raunchy this morning again. Martine won't be able to open the windows. They hear the house out today when the wind is this way from the northwest. If we get the northwest wind, we get all the smell of the dead fish and the die-off, and it's pungent. It makes you want to puke.
They process dead fish at a plant in Burgeo, which Dorm can see, hear, and smell from his B&B. The motors run all day, pumping dead fish from a freighter to the fish plant. It angers Dorm, but he hopes it also sends a message to the people of Burgeo.
Yeah, it exposes this industry for what it really is. It's an industry that they're pushing so hard, but they haven't got their science figured out. They're producing a product that's not viable in these waters. Their chemistry is not there. The water temperature, the overcrowding, the feed, the whole 9 yards, and even where they're planting it, they're rubbing up against the locals, and they pit local against locals. So the die-off, from my perspective, the only good that will come out of it will bring light to the industry, and the consequence of that industry is bad news. It's stink, it's toxic, and it's killing other species and killing tourism.
Dorm is convinced salmon farming closer to home would snuff out any possible growth in tourism. He's been on the front lines of fighting expansion and creating a protected area. I want to hear how his neighbors and fishermen feel, so I wander down to the public dock in Burgeo.
So this is my boat. I just had her built 2 years ago. She'll be 3 years old this coming May. And this is what we use for fishing. Lobster fishing.
Terry Billard agrees to show me his fishing boat, a 28-footer with 2 engines, sounders, and sonar. Terry has a license to fish 10 weeks of the year off the Burgeo coast. He says it's barely enough to live and make payments on the boat.
And all I do is lobster fish and a bit of catfish and that into her. And the rest of the time she's laid up. And it just costs a lot of money to pay for one of these boats, you know. It's $130,000. And I just like to be able to get some tourists coming in here and take them down on some trips and stuff, you know, down the bay and see these fjords that's down there, and get some kayaks and stuff, and you know, they can go down there and paddle around for the day or whatever and make a trip of it, you know. If this MMCA goes to the next stage and they're going to introduce it and they want it here, then I'm going to try to take advantage of it if I can, you know.
Take advantage in what way? What do you think you could do?
Well, I think that it would probably invite more people from coming here and seeing the coastline and the sandbanks and the fjords down there and stuff. And I think it might generate some activity in the town, because the town is dying, you know.
I started out fishing on the south coast of Newfoundland in a little place called Pools Cove. Initially I fished with my father, and after about 6 years fishing with him, I got my own enterprise.
Next, I meet a fisherman who has experience with salmon farming. Jody Keynes fishes the same general area as Terry Billard, but he started in Pools Cove down the coast, right around the time salmon farms started arriving, often with subsidies from the province of Newfoundland. There are pens all around Pools Cove now, and Jody says it brought immediate jobs and investment, but he doesn't like what he sees long term.
When it started first, I mean, I have friends and family involved with salmon aquaculture, and I thought it was going to be a good thing. There was 100% employment at first, but as the years went by, I could see the pollution and some of the dark side of salmon aquaculture. I mean, I fished near these cages, and what was traditionally like good lobster fishing ground, when I got so close to them, if you set a lobster trap next to a cage, when you pull it up, it'd be covered in this black sludge, this sewage type sludge.
Is there still work around Pools Cove at the fish farms?
Those jobs that once was 100% employment in Pools Cove, now there's barely any employment there. They can't regrow things in that local area, so they need to jump from harbor to cove to cove to cove, just to have new ground so that they can put in a new batch until it's polluted and get a new harvest and then move on and move on.
So what then do you think of an NMCA around Burgeo?
I think we can work with Parks Canada and DFO if fishermen can get guarantees that they won't be pushed out. Initially, when I moved up from Pools Cove, to subsidize my income, I used to do boat tour operations at a Groshmore National Park in Ban Bay. So at that time, I was doing 2 ball-ups a day on the beach, and me and my wife did that, and it greatly, impacted our year end. There's great spin-offs to having Parks Canada in your backyard because they'll bring with it other things. They'll bring with it the ability to have more tourists in your area, which not only benefits, say, fishermen like myself who offer boat tours, but anybody who has a restaurant or accommodations like Airbnbs or motels and things like that. It really helps the whole entire population, as opposed to like this aquaculture is going to come in, these jobs will come, then they'll leaving a mess, and there'll be nothing left in 10, 15 years.
Hey Ken, you gotta head into the middle of the circle there now if you want.
Into the middle of the circle?
Roger. Yes, roger that, yeah. Head into the middle of the circle and we'll follow you.
Another bright summer day on the southwest coast. A flotilla of boats from the Burgeo area have gathered in Bay de Lou, the pristine spot Durham showed me. They're here as a form of watery protest, trying to draw a line in the water where they want the fish farms to stop.
We lift up the vision of a protected coast where generations to come can hear the eagles cry. Taste the salt here and know the stories of this place are still alive.
Burgeo First Nation Chief Elaine Ingram addresses 100 people on 30 boats bobbing in the bay. Chief Ingram has been fighting expansion for years. There's already over 100 licenses on the south coast, and only half of them are being used, and she can't understand why they need more.
When you poison the wild salmon, you poison our culture. We have said for years these fish farms are harming our ecosystems, and now science is finally catching up. Yet too often our voices are silenced. Agreements are broken, waters are leased without our consent. We remind governments and corporations these are our territories, our laws, our governance, and our voices must be respected. We are not here to ask politely for our survival, we are here to demand it. Restore balance to the waters, and most importantly, listen. Listen to the people of this land who still remember how to live with it, not just of it.
Amen. Thank you.
Whitbeer Bay and Bay de Lou holds significant value to us because that's where my ancestors came from. They lived down there, they fished, they hunted. Hopefully we will be able to stop them from putting in fin farms.
Do you feel like this is a calling for you now?
I do. I feel like I'm called upon. Yes, I do. And I've asked myself many times, why am I doing that? But in my heart, there's something telling me that, you have to fight for this, and which I am doing.
One message I hear from the flotilla and Burgeo itself is they're not completely against fish farming. People in the flotilla rely on a pristine shoreline and ocean. They're connected to it. I speak with Joe Dix, an entrepreneur in the outdoor adventure business who ran paddle tours around Burgeo.
I have no problem with farming. We have very good practices in the mussel farming industry, and some of the other aquaculture industries are very good. I think there's a really good example in Nova Scotia where they do a land-based farming experience. Doesn't seem to have impact. I don't really understand why we would be willing to compromise a natural wild resource for a farmed resource. I just don't see that. I don't understand that. We've been through cattle replacing buffalo. We've been through so many examples of this over the years. It's not the thinking of today. This is not what we do. This is not what we should do.
So what would you like to see happen in Burgeo, it left alone?
Well, I think it would be best to fix what you're doing elsewhere before you bring it over and extend it. Get those practices right. Get some science behind it. If your fish are dying off en masse, then we really need to have a look at what you're doing over there before you expand.
Thank you, everyone. Let's have a safe journey back.
A lot of strong opinions in Burgeo, Bob.
It's tough to be a fence sitter when your livelihood and perhaps even your way of life is at stake. So no, there's not a lot of fence sitters there. And yes, there are strong opinions for sure.
Did you talk to other people in Newfoundland?
Yeah, I did. I traversed the province from Burgeo to St. John's, which is about a 900-kilometer trip. And by the way, I absolutely fell in love with the place and the people there. But there are strong opinions about fish farming everywhere. The one thing people always preface that opinion with is exactly what Joe Dick said to me. They all say, I'm not against salmon farming per se, I just don't like the way it's being done. And almost everyone I spoke with added, I have friends and family who work in the industry. It is really big business there now in Newfoundland.
So did you talk to people in the industry?
Yeah, I went to St. John's and set up in Harborside Park right downtown as a French cruise ship pulled out and a container ship was being unloaded. The reason I did that is I just wanted to invite people who, one, represent the industry, and two, who are opponents of it, down there to talk to me, figuring the decision's going to be made in St. John's anyway, so I'll make it my last stop right downtown.
And did they show up?
The head of the Newfoundland and Labrador aquaculture industry chatted with me but didn't want to do an interview. For one, he knew I was doing a podcast for ASF and was suspicious of my motives, but also said he was just too busy. But a glimpse of the Newfoundland and Labrador aquaculture industry website tells you everything you need to know. This is a direct quote. They say, aquaculture in Newfoundland and Labrador has already proven its value on the south coast, creating more than 2,000 jobs. That's the entire industry. Fish farming is about 1,000 of those jobs. They go on to say, it's fully regulated at the provincial and federal level with transparent oversight and food safety protocols that ensure responsible operation from hatchery to harvest. It provides healthy protein, increases food security, and sustains rural and coastal communities.
And that is not insignificant. I mean, rural Newfoundland was just hammered by the cod moratorium.
Yeah, I heard that time and time again on this trip. Rural Newfoundland, people say, needs something, and they're grasping fish farming to keep communities alive. Remember, the average age in Burgeo is 60. The aquaculture industry's president didn't want to talk to me about this stuff, but Cyr Couturier did. He's a retired aquaculture scientist, he's a marine biologist, and a real backer of the industry in general. I want you to listen to what Cyr had to say.
It provides an economic opportunity and a livelihood for probably about 1,000 families around the island, mostly on the south coast, in the finfish side of things. There are probably a dozen communities along the south coast of Newfoundland where there hasn't been a net out migration. In some areas of the south coast, and Canagran Peninsula in particular, there was a 40% unemployment. So finfish aquaculture came to being. It's a reliable job. You have employment. You can afford to renovate your house. You can afford to improve your school system. I think it means a lot to rural Newfoundlanders and rural people around the world, in essence.
Do you think it's being done responsibly and isn't harming the stocks of wild salmon?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of critics out there, and activist groups will say yes, it can harm wild salmon, it can harm wild ecosystems and things like that. But the development is proven wrong, or the industry has basically adapted so that they are responsible.
That is very generally the argument for salmon farming. That one, it creates employment. Two, they create food and a way of life for Newfoundlanders, and they say the industry improves with every year.
And do opponents buy that?
No, they don't. One of the biggest opponents in St. John's is Dave Hennessy. He's an angler and president of the Salmon Association of Eastern Newfoundland. Dave believes, and a lot of people do, the exact opposite of what Cyr Couturier has to say. Listen to Dave.
In Newfoundland, it is very light-handed regulation. And I think that's probably why over the last 40, 50 years, the companies established here.
Should they shut these things down or no, just start policing them and contain them to certain places around Newfoundland?
Well, what we would like to see at a minimum is no further expansion. like they really can't handle what they got now, as evidenced by the recent die-offs. Well, not recent, it's been happening for a number of years. It doesn't seem like they can operate them well. So at a minimum, there should be no expansion. They had to get their house in order. And in the longer term, we would like to see the government here go down the path that British Columbia did. They sat down and came up with a transition plan to transition the open net cages in the British Columbia waters into a closed containment way of operating. So that's a path I think we would like to see Newfoundland do. Now, it may not be 5 years here. Maybe it's 10 years. Maybe it's 10 years to get them into a better system and technology, and you still have the jobs here. We don't want to see anybody lose their jobs, but we like to see them in more skilled jobs, better systems, and better for the wild salmon. At the end of the day, we want to protect the wild salmon, and this open net pen cage is just don't cut it.
And that brings us back to British Columbia, your home and where we began this podcast.
Yes, and by sheer coincidence, as I was flying home to BC, I met David Suzuki in the Vancouver airport.
What?
Yeah, I know, just a coincidence. Coincidental because he's been such a vocal opponent of salmon farming on the West Coast.
Did you talk to him?
Yeah, I did. And he told me a story about scuba diving near a salmon cage in the Pacific and sticking his arm down in the excrement and chemical pile at the bottom of one of these cages. He said it went up to his shoulder and he still hadn't touched the bottom. It was that deep. So I started this podcast by reading Farley Mowat and ended it with a chat with David Suzuki. Somehow very fitting.
Very fitting indeed. Thanks, Bob.